going to cut a piece and silicone over these holes.
Smart.
And then I'm going to silicone that gap and fill in all these little holes where the screws was. So it'll be watertight. I'm marking this at 2 inches. And then we're going to take this straight edge right here.
Straight edge? That's what sister's doing.
Make sure we don't cut our fingertips off. I was hoping not to have to break out saw. We might. There it went.
What is that? Is that glass?
Yeah.
Is that hot?
It sounds like a crow, buddy.
It's not a crow, it's a hawk.
Ready to roll?
Where are we going?
Or him say. I said ready to roll. Which I guess is what I say whenever we're going somewhere too. I've been working on converting this old freezer we had into an outdoor worm bin. So I've drilled some holes in it and filled up some of the other holes in it so it'll be waterproof. I'm going to set it out back in my garage and we'll be able to put a lot more food scraps and bedding and everything in it. And it's insulated real well, so it should last during our winters. I'll more than likely take one of my red wiggler bins and just dump it in here to put the worms in. And we might end up buying some more worms to put in it. But let me turn this camera around and I'll show you what all I did to it so far and just tell you what I have left to do to it. To start out, I took all of the equipment out of it. I took the compressor and all of the different electrical wiring and all that I could get out of it. And I took a 2-inch hole saw and drilled 12 holes all the way around it towards the top. We're going to put some mesh over them right here in a minute. That way the worms can't get out and no mice or anything can get into it. And then on all of the bigger holes or bigger openings, I put some plexiglass and I just siliconed everything in and I siliconed all of the cracks so it'll be watertight with an aquarium safe silicone. That way it's safe for the worms. It does have a drain. I'm going to leave that drain. I'm going to put a piece of mesh over top of it. That way it'll be kind of like a safety. I don't plan on it end up making leachade. I'm going to try and maintain it like I do my bins now and just keep a perfect moisture level in them. But if it does end up getting full for some reason, it will drain out that hole right there. So it'll work out pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and work on cutting the mesh to put in these holes. And we'll go ahead and put all that in. And then we'll just have to let this set and let all the silicone cure. And we'll be ready to put some worms in it. Okay, 12 mesh circles. And that took a whole lot longer than it was supposed to. This is stainless steel mesh though, so it shouldn't rust out or nothing. It is pretty tough stuff. But let's glue these on, and that'll have all of the modifications done to the bin. We'll be ready to set it up after that. Okay, so I have all of the mesh siliconed over top of the holes. I just siliconed them on there, and then I made sure that the silicone was on the sharp edges, covering them. That way they don't catch us whenever we're messing around in the bin. And I put that last little strip of mesh over top of this drain. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of a valley there. So I sealed all the way around that. So there's actually a open spot all the way across through there. So it's got about a 1 foot wide section that the water can drain out if it has to. I siliconed all of the edges, all of the cracks that was in the edges, siliconed plexiglass over top of all of these bigger holes, and I put silicone in all of the little screw holes where the shelves and stuff was. So that should make that watertight. So any liquid that does get in it will end up going to that drain. All we have to do now is let all the silicone cure out for 2 or 3 days, and we'll be ready to set it up out back and throw some worms in it. All of the materials that I used, I got off of Amazon: the plexiglass, the aquarium safe silicone, and the mesh. So we'll leave that in the description below. That way you can go buy those if you want to do a project like this. It ended up being about $60 worth of stuff, and the freezer was just going to go to the junkyard. So this is a $60 humongous worm bin. And like I said, it is 10 square feet. So that's going to be a pretty good surface area that we can put all of our food scraps and stuff in. We're going to let this set and cure out, and then I'll get back with you and show you putting the bedding in and introducing the worms to it. Okay, I've got it set up now. I just propped it up on a couple of cinder blocks out back. It is right here behind my garage. Should stay fairly shaded back here and won't get a whole lot of sunlight on it, so it should be in a pretty good spot for it. What I did, I leveled it this way, but it's actually off leveled that direction. That way anything that does need to leach out of it will go down to that end and out that drain, and I'll just keep a bucket or something underneath that drain to catch all the leachate if I need to. It's roughly about 2 inches lower on this side than it is this side, so that should help everything drain pretty good. Now all we have to do is get our bedding ready to put in here, and we'll let it set for a day or so with the bedding in it, and then we'll introduce the worms to it. So for bedding, I'm wanting to do about 4 inches in the bottom of this, and I'm not going to let it get over 1 foot to 14 inches high total. This is 10 cubic feet, so if it's 10 square feet. So 1 foot deep, 10 square feet makes 10 cubic feet. So we want to do a third of that, so it'd be 4 inches. So a third of that is 3 1/3 cubic feet. So that's roughly the amount of material that we want. What I'm going to use a full bale of the coconut coir. It says it actually expands to up to 3 cubic feet, but normally you get about 2, somewhere around through there. And I'm going to use a 1.5 cubic foot bag of Leaf Grow 100% organic soil conditioner, because I don't have any compost right now. I'm just going to screen this through my 1/2 inch screen and mix these two together and put it in the bin, and then I'll top it off with some shredded cardboard. If you're buying a bag material, make sure it's organic. You want it as close to just normal organic compost as possible. You don't want any added fertilizer or chemicals or anything in it. Right now I've got a couple big piles of manure, but they're still cooking about 120, 130 degrees on the inside composting, so I can't use those right now without harming the worms. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and screen this out, and I've got another bale of this already rehydrating, and we'll mix the two together and get them in the bin and let them set for a day or so before we put the worms in. This leaf grow is a really good material. From my understanding, all it is composted leaves and forest matter. Every now and then you'll find a stick in it, but they're well broken down, so you don't have to worry about it heating up in the worm bin or anything. I've used it for years in my container plants and in our garden beds whenever I don't have any homemade compost or aged manure. The only thing that I got screened out of it, that's all that I ended up screening out, so I probably could have just put it in there like it was, but I like to bust it up and get all the big clumps out of it. That's just a few sticks and twigs and stuff, so nothing major. So now I'm going to strain out all of my coconut fiber like I usually do. I've just got it soaking in a thing of water, and I'm just going to squeeze it out. That way most of the salts come out of it. But we're going to do that, mix these two together, and put them over here in the bin, and it'll be ready for the worms in a day or two. Okay, there's all the coconut fiber. I ended up with 4.5 5-gallon buckets out of that brick. And that was one of the 11-pound bricks. It's one of the biggest bricks you can buy of the coconut fiber. That ends up being a little over 2 cubic feet. Because a cubic foot is roughly 8 gallons. So 2 5-gallon buckets almost full is a cubic foot. Which that's usually about what I get out of one of those bales. So now I'm just going to mix this up pretty good with my shovel, and then I'm going to shovel it over into the bin and level it out, and we'll top it off with some shredded cardboard and paper. And there we go. So that is roughly a little over 3.5 cubic yards. So that should be just over our 4-inch mark once it settles down. It's probably about 5 or so right now. Right there's the bottom. So yeah, that's about 4 inches or so. That's gonna be perfect. I'm gonna top this off with some shredded cardboard, and we'll let it set probably until in the morning, and then we'll introduce some worms into it. I'm just gonna take one of my red wiggler bins I have down at the house and just dump the whole bin in this side of this bin, and that's how I'll get the worms in here. And I'm gonna do a 5-gallon bucket of shredded paper and cardboard that just went through my crosscut paper shredder. I'm just going to spread this over the top evenly. And we're actually supposed to get some rain today, so I'm probably just going to leave the lid up on this thing and let it rain in it just a little bit to dampen this cardboard and give a little bit more moisture to the bedding, because it's a little bit drier than I want it to be. And you can't get any better water for a worm bin or a garden than rainwater. If I do end up having to water this bin, that's probably what I'll do, is just raise the lid up and let it rain down in it. And that looks good. We'll let it rain down in there and dampen that cardboard a little bit, and we'll introduce some worms to it in the morning. See how it goes. Okay, we're up here the next morning. We have our worms we're going to put in. What I'm planning on doing is I'm going to take this bin that we had down there in our utility room, and I'm just going to dump it in there, worms and all, and that will inoculate this bin with some worms and the good bacteria that they like. This one was actually almost ready to harvest, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there. You can see on the lid, can you see them? There's some little tiny babies on there. So there should be a lot of worms in there to grow out and fill out this bin. Look at them on there. You see all the little bitty ones, buddy?
Where's more eggs?
You gonna hold one of them? The eggs are down there, the cocoons.
What?
The cocoons are down in the bedding. Those are some that just hatched out.
Why ain't they
Here,
moving?
we'll put those in there in a minute. This bin's looking pretty good. It's been staying really wet, so I added a bunch of cardboard to it. But there are plenty of worms down in here. It hasn't been fed in probably about a week. So after I dump it in there, I've got some food scraps I'm going to throw down in there next to them that I've got thawing out down there at the house. So this should put a lot of worms in the bin. I'll more than likely end up ordering a few more, like maybe 2,000 more maybe, and put in there, because this bin will be able to hold about 12 to 15,000 worms whenever it's up and running good. You like playing with worms, don't you?
A mama worm. Mama worm.
Is it a mama worm? How can you tell?
Because it has a red spot.
Oh.
Hey, where are you going, mama worm?
So I'm gonna set this camera up and I'll show you how I'm gonna put these in the bin, in the new bin. There's a piece of food of some kind. So to put them in the bin, I'm gonna rake back this cardboard on top, and I'm gonna dump all the worms, bedding and all out of the odor bin in this side, or this quarter. And then whenever I come up here, I'm gonna feed here with the food, and I'm just going to feed this half of the bed for a few months, and then I'll migrate them over to the other side, and we'll be able to harvest this out probably 4 to 6 months, somewhere around through there. You do have a baby worm, don't you, buddy? It ended up not raining last night, so this is still dry, but we're supposed to get some rain here in a little bit. So after I put these worms in and cover this up, I'll probably just leave it open and let it rain in it for about 30 minutes or so. Okay, you ready to dump the worms in, buddy? Are you ready? Okay. Here we go. It's quite heavy.
Put it up for onward.
Smells like some really good worm castings, buddy. We could have actually screened this out and used it, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it in here to inoculate this bed. This is going to be the fastest way to get this bed up and running. And we start getting too many worm bins in our utility room.
Big worms.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do with that one you just had?
I throwed it in there.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Is that one big enough for you?
Yeah. Is this a daddy one? Is this a dada one?
Okay. I think I'm gonna go get maybe a watering can and a little bit of water and see if I can't wash this off into the bin to make sure I get all these little baby worms off of it. Then all I'll do is feed it and cover it up with this cardboard and let it rain on it for a little bit today to water everything in. Okay, I've got my watering can. This one I use down there with the bins in the utility room. And some dechlorinated water. So I'm just going to rinse off that lid and try and get all them little baby worms off of it into here. And I'm going to rinse out the bucket, or the old bin, and see if I can't get the worms out of it too. Okay, that should be all of them. So now I'm going to go down there and get our food scraps that I have thawing out, and I want to feed this section of the bin right here, just bury it underneath this material that I just laid down. And then I'm going to take all this cardboard and cover the top of it with cardboard again. Okay, it's been a couple of hours since I put the worms in the bin. It's been raining on it, so most of that paper is damp now. And all I did was I just took all that paper and scooted it over to this half. And I'm just going to take some fresh paper that I have, or fresh cardboard, and cover this section after I get done feeding it. So that's 1 gallon of food scraps. I'm going to top it off with some coffee grounds and some dry worm food, and then cover it over and put some more cardboard on top of it. And we'll see what it looks like in a week or so. And there we go. I put about another, probably half a 5-gallon bucket full of dry cardboard on top of it. Now I'm just gonna shut it up and we'll come check on it ever so often. And I'll do an update video on it here in maybe a week, 10 days or so. And we'll see how much they've processed that food. Thanks for watching.